Dear friends, welcome to this assembly. I am only articulating the silent gratitude which many of you must be feeling within your hearts. Gratitude for a certain event which took place exactly 100 years ago in August 1914. The event was the birth of the monthly magazine, the Arya. Well, we are consciously here to express our gratitude to that event and that day. The issue was released, first issue of the Arya, on the 15th of August 1914, the 42nd birthday of the Master, Sri Aurobindo. We are consciously expressing our gratitude to that particular event, but at this hour of the night or the day, because on the other half of the globe there will be the daytime now, at this hour, whoever is pursuing, whoever is studying any of the major works of Sri Aurobindo, the Life Divine, or the Synthesis of Yoga, or the ideal of human unity, human cycle, essays on the Gita, so on and so forth, is unconsciously paying a tribute to that moment 100 years ago, because it is the Arya who is carried all these great works of the Master. Had there not been Arya, we do not know whether Sri Aurobindo would have cared to put down on paper this magnificent flow of consciousness. Of course, it was destined to be like that. And before I come to the question, why at all it was destined to be like that? Sri Aurobindo was a great yogi. He was pursuing his yoga, be it for himself or be it for mankind. Was it necessary to write all these works? Before I come to that question, let me briefly survey the very significance of the word, the Arya. There are millions of words in the world vocabulary. Why did he pick up this particular word, the Arya? In Indian languages, the word is Arya is pronounced in a little differently also, Arya. এই ভারতের মহামানবের সাগর তীরে হেথায় আর্য হেথা অনার্য হেথায় দ্রাবিড় চীন হেথায় পাঠান হেথায় মোগল এক দেহে হলে লীন হেথায় আর্য হেথা অনার্য হেথায় দ্রাবিড় চীন হেথায় পাঠান হেথায় you can remind me এক দেহে হলে লীন. So it is in this sense the term Arya means a particular race. For a long time it was believed that Aryans came from outside India into India. In fact, the Western historians use the term the Aryan invasion of India. They invaded India and from the Himalayan region gradually advanced towards the south. A theory which has been outdated, which has been laughed at lately I should say. There is nothing to show, nothing to prove that Aryans had come from outside India. Rather, there are possibilities. When we study the folklore of different countries in the West, including Greece and Mexico, we see in them the presence of certain legends that the Aryans came from this region of the earth towards those continents in the West. It is very difficult. You see, unfortunately, No serious research till today has taken place to explain where exactly the Aryan race came into being and how they got distributed over a great part of the world. Iran derives its name from Aryan. There is an area in Iran which is known as Aryana. It is believed that from you see Arjavarta, that is from Himalayan till the Bindhu, that the whole great area was known as Aryavarta. And Aryas migrated from Aryavarta to Aryana, Iran, and to many other countries. Germans are very proud, particularly during Hitler's time, to call themselves the Aryans. But in a ridiculously different sense. The term Arya means, as little while ago, dear Swadesh was quoting a line from Sri Aurobindo, there is no word as noble, as great as the word the Arya. But what did Hitler do? In the name of belonging to a superior race called the Aryans, he tried to destroy, according to him, who were the non-Aryans, and the first target were the Jews, killing tens of millions of Jews, setting a record in barbaric cruelty in the history of the world. He also called himself an Aryan. I am just demonstrating to you how the word can be misused. Whereas, even in our normal tradition, the term Arya means somebody who is refined, cultured, civilized. When we use the word as a prefix to a name, X Arya, Z Arya, we emphasize the fact he who is essentially a cultured person. A lady addresses her husband as Arya Putra. So that is the tradition of the word Arya. And in this tradition, Swami Dayananda Saraswati established the Arya Samaj, the society of the cultured, the refined, the civilized. But the real term Arya has even much more to say. I will just quote a few words from Sri Aurobindo to show what the meaning Arya carried. That person is an Arya who is not only cultured, whoever makes that choice, whoever seeks to climb from level to level, up the hill to the divine, fearing nothing, deterred by no retardation or defeat, shrinking from no vastness because it is too vast for his intelligence, no height because it is too high for his spirit, no greatness because it is too great for his force and courage. He is the Aryan, the divine fighter and victor, the nobleman, the aristos, best, the sreshto of the Gita. So we see the best of human being has the right to call himself an Arya. The Aryan is he who strives and overcomes all outside him and within him, not only outside him but within him, that stands opposed to the human advance. Self-conquest is the first law of his nature. Self-conquest is the first law of his nature. Sri Aurobindo does not dismiss any theory regarding the origin of the word Arya scientifically or philologically made. The scientists of language, they say the term Arya came from Ara, which meant to plow. Sri Aurobindo says, yes, that is true. They plow. What do they plow? They plow the field the Supreme Spirit has made for them. The Supreme Spirit has given each one of us a certain field to cultivate. Consciousness, a field of consciousness, which we must cultivate and grow the finest possible fruit and flowers. That is the self-culture. That is the meaning of Arya, even philologically, which Sri Aurobindo approves. And I repeat, there is no word in human speech that has a nobler history than the word Arya. Next question, as I had posed earlier, why did Sri Aurobindo at all deem it necessary to write out for humanity the great truths which he had realized? He could have very well kept to himself. There have been yogis who have realized truths, but how many works like the Gita or the Life Divine are there? Well, to answer this question, I have to make a very brief survey of the whole, I should say, tragicomic or comic-tragic history of Indian spirituality. You see, as is well known, India is the first nation in the world, the first culture in the world where a systematic quest had been possible about the meaning of life. Why am I born? Why do I die? Why do I suffer? Where do I go? What happens to me after I die? Do I still exist? Do I come back to this earth? What is karma? What is destiny? What is niyati? No other nation, I believe, has raised this question in a systematic way and has tried to answer them. And that is why we see in Indian tradition there had been a very well organized class of mystic literature, spiritual literature, beginning with the Vedas, Upanishads, Itihasa. Itihasa means the two great epics, Ramayana and the Mahabharata. Our ancients took them as historical facts. And the Mahapuranas, Puranas, Sthala Puranas, Upapuranas, hundreds of them, they constituted the vast spiritual literature of India. An unbroken series of works giving us revelations of experiences, splendors of life, splendors of knowledge, so on and so forth. But somewhere along the passage of this progress, there came a time when this very basis of philosophy on which these works were being written got deviated. What was the basis of that philosophy? It is known as Advaita Vedanta. Advaita means Ekameva Dvitiyam. There is only one and no second. Advaita, no second. And Advaita Vedanta believes that out of a sense of delight of the Supreme, the whole creation was made. Despite all the proofs to the contrary, it is that power of delight which sustains us. And we again enter into delight when we die, or ultimately when the whole Srishti comes to its culmination. In other words, delight is at the basis of the whole existence and our life. There came the mighty great Buddha some 2500 years ago, who declared life is nothing but a bundle of sorrows. See, absolutely what the opposite of the basic premise, that life is based on delight, ananda. He said it is a bundle of sorrows. Now, nothing in history takes place as an accident. No. Probably it was necessary for the basic truth to be examined by the very negative possibility and to emerge again. We cannot pass a judgment immediately, but it is a fact that when Buddha came, the truth of this Advaita Vedanta had been thoroughly corrupted. Nobody was there to explain the real spirit of the Veda. Nobody was there to explain what is meant by all is Brahman. When I see before my eyes life is coming to an end, proving to be an illusion, when I see before my eyes that like lucky people, great fortunate ones collapsing, and I see it as an illusion, how do I say that it is a delight, it is something true, it is something Brahma? Nobody has there to explain that behind this appearance of failure, death, sorrows and sufferings, there is also a purpose, there is also a meaning, and that meaning has to be traced through a total faith in the providential wisdom, in total trust in that power which has created the whole universe in our life. Nobody was there at that time to explain these things. So when Buddha came out with the declaration, the whole life is a bundle of sorrows, and desires are at the root of the sorrows, it appealed to everybody. It is true. It is true according to Buddha, it is true according to even Sri Aurobindo, it is true according to the mother, that there is nothing as satisfaction in the realm of desires. Each desire is bound to lead us to a kind of frustration. So when we see that desire is something which is illusory, and Buddha says, only if you eliminate the desires, you eliminate your sorrows, and then you follow a certain principle, you will be free from the cycle of birth and death. Who wants to come back to this world full of struggle, full of toil, full of tears, full of cries? Better I return to the very source from which I came. Extremely appealing a proposition. And Buddhism appealed to the masses of Indian people. I do not know today, difficult to say how many of them really understood it. But when Emperor Asoka came and he made Buddhism the religion of his state, the state officials were also the guardians of religion. Buddhism must be observed everywhere. He became missionary. The first, a missionary before Christians came, he was a missionary. He sent his son and daughter to Sri Lanka, Ceylon, to preach Buddhism, and other great geniuses, talented people to the Suvarnadvipa, the Indonesian archipelago, all these places everywhere around India. Now, Buddhism spread. How far it is real Buddhism, difficult to say, but it spread. Now, Buddhism, as a few centuries past, somehow got terribly corrupted. Coming in contact with Tantra, other philosophies, Buddhism also got perverted. Then there came another genius. Some, according to some 1500 years ago, according to some 2000 years ago, mighty Shankaracharya, the great Shankara. He challenged the Buddhist philosophy. He tried to resurrect what was known as the Vedic Vedantic philosophy. And he condemned Buddhism. But he condemned Buddhism. What is the alternative he gave? He said, instead of saying life is a bundle of sorrows, he said life is an illusion. Jagar Mithya, Brahma Satya, life is an illusion. For a layman, how much difference there, whether it is a bundle of sorrows or illusion. In any case, it is something which is not desirable. And he says, I will give you nirvana, Vedantic way of nirvana. I was quoting, please pardon me, I am coming down from the level where I am speaking to a very popular level. A joke to show that there isn't any difference, basic difference between what Buddha said and what Shankara said, but it is only the question of the backdrop. One day, a beggar comes to beg for a handful of rice to a householder villa, and the daughter-in-law of the family comes out and tells the beggar, look here, today is Thursday. On Thursday, it is forbidden to give rice out of home. You go back, come tomorrow, I will give you. The beggar was going back. From the balcony, the mother-in-law saw the beggar going back. He called him back, come back, come back. He came back. Where are you going back? The daughter-in-law said that today is Thursday, the rice cannot be given, I should come tomorrow. Who is she to say that? Is she the master of the house? I say today is Thursday, there is no rice. I cannot give you rice to come tomorrow and you take rice. So, now what exactly Shankaracharya, remember, a mighty genius. No scholar at that time could stand against his argumentative zeal. One's entire philosophy will collapse like a house of cards before Shankaracharya. It is more the force of his personality. There are vibhutis, emanations, powers of divinities, partial truths. So, they are not to be dismissed, but then they are partial truths. They are not the integral truth. They are not the whole truth. So, Shankaracharya ousted Buddhism to a great extent. But what happened? This concept of life being a bundle of suffering and illusion, it has invaded the entire vital sphere of the Indian personality. We can never get rid of it. We are very clever. When we fail in a business, we say it is an illusion. When we succeed, karma, it is my purushakara. All philosophies are there to support our, incidents in life or experiences in life. Even a corrupt person, when he is caught, he gave the explanation, Arya, what is corruption? It is illusion. Who is corrupt? Look here, to what a degree these philosophies have not only weakened us vitality, but also have helped us to become corrupt. But that is not the truth of Indian psyche. If Buddhism did not survive, it is not because people could not become vegetarians or people could not become full-fledged non-violent. Yes, nobody can become non-violent as long as violence is there in the atmosphere, in the very marrow of the creation, as long as it has not been transformed. But nevertheless, I am reminded of a small anecdote which I have narrated in one of my books called My Little India. The author is coming from Varanasi to Delhi by train. I am traveling. In olden days, many years ago, there was no AC first class compartments, no ordinary first class compartment. And in that compartment, a small group of European tourists is there, about 5 or 6 of them, with an Indian guide. Now, these European tourists, they do not know English very well, only manageable. They are Europeans, but not Englishmen, or not Americans or British. And nobody else is there, that group and myself. And the Indian guide, very smart young man. So one of the tourists is asking him, they have just returned from the place where Buddha, the village near Varanasi, Sarnath. They have just returned from Sarnath, thank you. And she is asking that why did Buddhism disappear from India? At Sarnath he has seen the first stupa, the first time where Buddha, the Lord, actually initiated the first group of disciples. Why did Buddhism disappear from India? Very sportively the guide says, the Brahmins caught hold of their hair and kicked them out. And I laughed a little bit, could not check. And the guy did not mark it, but the spokesman of that the group of tourists, he observed it. 5 minutes later, he offered me, "Will you have a cup of tea, sir?" I said, "No, thank you." "Why did you laugh?" I said, "No, nothing to do with Buddhism and all that." I said, No, there is something to do with it. Why did you laugh?" I said, "I laughed because the Brahmins must have found it very difficult because the Buddhists are all clean-shaven people. How to find their hair to kick them out?" And so that is why I laughed a little bit. And they all laughed. The Indian tourist guide also laughed. After some time, he was a good man. After some time, the tourists are asking me, "What is your theory then? Why did Buddhism disappear from India?" Then I told him that, "You see, it is very difficult, a complex question. It requires a long, elaborate answer. All that I can tell you. The Indian psyche, the soul of India, the internal spirit of India, it believed that a power could not have created this whole thing just to make it suffer and to make it realize that it is an illusion. Who can realize that he is an illusion unless it is a reality?" Now, the Creator had some other purpose. And the basic Indian philosophy believed that it is delight, ananda, which sustains the whole creation, not sorrow or illusion. So that is why at a certain time of the historical period, a certain course of time, it was necessary for the corrupt Brahmanism, as they called it, to get a snub, and Buddhism came. But after a few hundreds of years, again the Indian psyche recovered itself. It did not accept this theory that life is a bundle of sorrows. So it returned to the basic theory. And Buddha was given his status. He was a great genius. In fact, the Hindu tradition made him an avatar. He has an avatar because at a given stage of evolution, when a man consciously decides to break away from the cycle of birth and death, he should have the liberty to do so. We are all mechanically bound to be born again and again because ultimately, through experiences gained in each life, remember, no life goes in vain. No experience goes in vain. Elaborately, Sri Aurobindo has explained these things. No experience goes in vain, however tragic, however sorrowful, however shocking, however gruesome, however joyous, however beautiful, however soothing. Each experience has a contribution to make to our progress towards the ultimate goal, which is realizing the ultimate truth of life. In other words, realizing God. Now, those who want to break away from this process, at a certain stage of evolution, Buddha did not come at the earliest time. He did not come when Matsya Avatara or Varaha Avatara, Katsapa Avatara or Parashrama Avatara was there. He came much later, when man is fully conscious, and those who consciously choose to break away from the cycle of birth and death, why should be they denied a chance? So he also had a role to play. But lest people remain, the basic tenets of Veda has disappeared, Buddhism also has corrupted. Lest people remain in a confusion, Shankara came. He tried to revive whatever he could. Each one of them had a role to play. But again the time had come. A time had come when the essential truth of Indian psyche, the basic philosophy of India, must be revived. And that is why Arya was necessary. When Monsieur Paul Richer, who came along with the mother, it is the will of the mother, of course, the Divine Mother, But when Paul Dessart proposed that, Sri Aurobindo, the philosophy which we have constructed, the yogic vision which you have, it is time that it is given to those who deserve, or it is time, it is given to Mahakalo, it is spread to the time so that in course of time, people who are prepared can benefit by it, can absorb it. And how can we do it unless we launch a medium to carry your ideas, your vision? An external reason must be there. So Paul Dessart's proposal was the external reason. But only 7 months after that, World War has broken out, First World War. Paul Dessart and mother are French citizens. Paul Dessart was a member of the Reserve Army of France. He has to go back, and mother had to go back with a joint passport. And Sri Aurobindo was left alone. If today you come across a copy of the Arya, the Mother India of August this year, this issue, current issue, is entirely devoted to reproducing the first issue of the Arya. Just open it, try to read it, try to go through different subjects. No sensible person can imagine that one human intellect could at the same time think over a spiritual issue, life divine, a sociological issue, a Vedic scholastic issue, and write at this level of language and style and intellect this much, a full chapter on its subject, simultaneously almost. It is not possible for a human being. And month after month, year after year, this is the awfully stupendous task which Sri Aurobindo had to discharge. He had to fill up 64 pages of the Arya till 2021 January. 78 issues of the Arya had been filled by his writing. That is from where we have got Life Divine, Synthesis of Yoga, Yashodhara Gita, and everything else. Sri Aurobindo tried to revive the truth, to grow into the, this is from the Arya, to grow into the fullness of the divine is the true law of human life, and to shape his earthly existence, our earthly existence, into its image, divine's image, is the meaning of his evolution, man's evolution. This is the fundamental tenet of the philosophy of the Arya. We had lost the truth that this earth is the field on which a mighty great experiment is taking place. An evolution is unfolding here. And whatever is evolved was involved. Mind was involved in life, life was involved in matter, that is our physical body. So they have evolved. We have no right to say that with mind, the evolution, power of evolution has become bankrupt. It has nothing more involved in it to offer to us. Who are we to say that? We did not dictate the evolution to come up to this stage. We did not dictate. A vital man, when man had no mind, he could not aspire for a mind. He did not know what is mind. Automatically mind evolved. But now we cannot dictate something more than mind to come out, but we know at least this much, that mind is not sufficient to please us, to give us the final satisfaction for which we are all yearning within. Mind has given us so many things, but yet no human being true to himself can say that I have found myself, I am thoroughly satisfied. The day he is thoroughly satisfied, he will become the supramental human being. He cannot become that, because still another great power remaining involved, awaiting human aspiration to unfold itself, to come out and to transform the present condition, the present situation of human beings. And that was the yoga of Sri Aurobindo. That was the message mankind had to be given. And unless this message goes to the mankind, how can we prepare ourselves? Sri Aurobindo very clearly says, as you all know, at present, mankind is going through an evolutionary ego, an evolutionary crisis. The crisis we are facing everywhere is not in politics. The crisis is not in foreign policy, not in economic policy, not in the market, not in the stock exchange, not in the family. The crisis is there in the evolutionary process. Whatever mind could give, it has given, but it has given also a huge mechanism around us to tackle which we do not have sufficient power over the means. We have to have a new power to make the most possible use of what mind itself has placed before us. Before mind can give much more things also. Many more things can come. Now this is something the Arya gave, and it is so heartening to remember today. You know, today no magazine can survive without a fat lot of advertisements. But without a single advertisement, the Arya not only maintained itself, it also brought some income for the publishers. And who are the subscribers? It is French India. Remember, Pondicherry was French India at that time. There are no English knowing people reading Arya here. Arya had 2 editions to begin with, English and French, but French edition only for 7 issues. Now, the French edition used to be sent to, France, and English edition to British India. And those who are trying to collect subscribers, they have to be very cautious, because we see from the correspondence now that if somebody is subscribed to Arya in Calcutta, for example, say, or in Delhi, the British CID will suspect that he is a terrorist. He is a link with Sri Aurobindo, who was the greatest danger to British India. The most dangerous man in India, according to the governor himself of British India. So anybody who is subscribed to Arya is a follower of the revolutionary genius that was Sri Aurobindo. So even those who are collecting subscriptions, they have to very stealthily do it, very, very secretly do it. In spite of that, it sustained itself. Arya could not afford a managerial staff. Imagine the Pondicherry of those days, 1914. Silence. This part of the city, what is known as, was known as the White Town, it had buildings. Beyond the canal, greater part of modern Pondicherry was farming land. Few buildings, few temples were there, few small localities, small hamlets. After sundown, all is quiet. In 1910, Pondicherry had 3 cars. And the governor of French India did not possess a car. He did not have that much fortune. All the British business people had. And by 1914, the car population might have reached 6. Silent Pondicherry, no honking. The beautiful god Vinayaka was there, eternally young god. But people worshipped him silently. Priests uttered mantra with murmur. He did not look for microphone. The bearing microphone were not there to disturb his sleep of poor Oiravato, the elephant who is standing, Lakshmi her name, the elephant who is standing there, and all the thousands of people. No, it was silent Pondicherry. And in that silent Pondicherry, a few workers are busy silently packing the copies of Arya, writing addresses, all under the supervision of the mother, 4.5 months only old at Pondicherry by that time. February she comes, and by August the issue of Arya has been launched. So she was keeping accounts. She was herself helping them to do all the manual works, all these few workers. That was the situation. But still, Arya caught the patience of the world of that time. Today, you see the great ashram existing here. We see the sprawling city of Pondicherry. In 1940s, I was recollecting, there are less than half a dozen PhD holders on Sri Aurobindo. Today, you cannot count their number. Within 50, 60 years, thousands of PhD holders on Sri Aurobindo all over the world. Now, all the great universities of the world, they are spontaneously teaching Sri Aurobindo. Sri Aurobindo is a part of the syllabus, either in philosophy, in political science, in literature, in humanities, but all because of the blessings of the Arya, the world came to know of Sri Aurobindo. Romarola, when he saw the copies of the Arya, well, he was amazed. Here is the mighty great synthesis between the genius of the East and the West. So, that is how it happened. And today, very subtly you will observe. You see, if you see the great gurus of India, till the turn of the first decade of the 20th century, ultimate goal is nirvana. Today, all the godmen who are walking the streets of India and going abroad, none of them would reject life. They would all subtly in different ways say, life has to be improved, life has to be spiritualized, life has to be mystified, etc., etc., etc. Behind all these things, there is the consciously or unconsciously imbibed influence of Sri Aurobindo. And that is all because the basic truth of life, that life was not a bundle of sorrows or illusions, but it had a divine origin and it has a divine culmination. It was there sheltered in the soul of India. I will conclude with an instance of a very, very ordinary Indian. Some of you must have been told about it. I have narrated it elsewhere several times. I can check my temptation to narrate it. Now, a great professor of evolution, his specialization is evolution. He has come to India and he has visited a small university. The vice chancellor used to be his friend in classmate in Cambridge or Oxford somewhere. He has not come to lecture. He has come to see India, to live some days here in India in peace. But the vice chancellor persuades him to give a talk to his staff and research scholars, only 100 and 150 people. He agrees. On the university auditorium, like this, he is speaking on evolution. He is beginning. When we speak of evolution, we think of Darwin. There are great evolutionists before him and even after him. Many theories of evolution are there, and Bible has the theory of evolution too. So, he was giving a whole history of evolution in a nutshell. At the end, he said, "My dear friends, I am not a mystic. I am a scientist. But I must confess that my knowledge of evolution got a touch of fulfillment from an Indian, and that Indian is not a scientist, but a mystic, Sri Aurobindo." How? Because it is he who said, he gave the supplementary theory to the theory of evolution. We thought of evolution. He spoke of involution. Evolution is possible because all that evolves was already involved. This is something which is a revelation to me. So when Sri Aurobindo believes that a day will come when with the intervention of a descent, or what he says, that there is a supreme power at the top and also beneath the human consciousness. So it is the expression from below and response from above that will transform humanity. Today's man will become man divine. I am tempted not to disagree with him. The professor says, when he concludes his talk, clouds are about to burst out into rains. There is erratic wind coming out of the hall. So he tells the audience, ladies and gentlemen, don't stand on formalities, no thanksgiving, you please disperse. Rains are coming. And people disperse. And he comes out. The Vice Chancellor is bringing his car to the portico. He stands in the portico, but rainwater is splashing into portico. Somebody holds an old umbrella on his head when he enters the car. So the scientist tells the man, he's a man with a soiled dhoti and kurta, and the scientist says, thank you very much. So the man says, sir, don't thank me. I must thank you. What a beautiful speech you gave. The scientist could not believe that he had followed his speech. You understood what I said? Yes, sir. I am an old matriculate. I was the head pandit of a primary school, but I know English. And what are you doing here? No, my son is a clerk in the university, and this hall is in his charge. So occasionally I come to stay with my son. His house is there, you can't see it. And some of the members of the audience, everybody appreciated your talk. But some people thought, Professor is speaking very well. But looking at the present man, the ugly man of today, very difficult to believe that this man will one day become God man, become divine man. Man is so filthy, so ugly. But sir, I tell you, what is there to suspect in this possibility? The scientist is getting more and more puzzled. What do you mean? He says, what I mean is, in front of my son's house, there is a small lake. Sometimes in the morning when I come out, I see out of the mud, with the grace of sunlight, a lotus has bloomed. If out of a filthy thing like mud, a lotus could bloom, wonder like lotus could bloom, why not out of the filthy mind of man today, with the grace of the divine, a divine mind cannot bloom, divine consciousness cannot bloom. The scientist said, I bow down to you. You are the Indian soul. You are the Indian psyche. Friends, this is also the psyche of the world, not only of India. It is the essence of the world's faith which sustains the world. They do not know. In India they had formulated, but Indians have forgotten them. But the world is waking up through Sri Aurobindo again to this psychic truth of India. Gradually, steadily, but unfailingly, next 100 years. Today is 19th of August 2014. Let us look for 2114. We won't be there. You may be lucky to be there. And certainly, those who will be paying tribute to Arya that day, it will be a different plane of understanding. A luminous consciousness will be there to greet Sri Aurobindo and to express their gratitude to him. Thank you very much, dear friends. Thanks, God. Our son, once again, we express our gratitude to the Master and the Mother. Thank you.